Hi, Gary.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here tonight. I'm going to start with a question, and then it's going to go down to Trustee Alsbach at the far end, and we're going to ask questions coming all the way back, okay?
Okay.
So if you could start off by telling us a little bit about yourself, including any involvement in the district and community.
So my parents came in 1986, 87, that kind of time, where my dad went to Oakland University to do his PhD, and then a year later I was born in Pontiac. Then I went to Meadowbrook Elementary, and then until I was about 9, where I was kind of without my choice, really. The whole family went to Singapore, so I lived there for another 9 years until 18. Where I went to the University of Adelaide in Australia. Yeah, I did my bachelor's degree there, made a few friends, broke a few hearts, and then did my PhD as well, and that's when I met my wife. About 2016, out of pure chance, I had an opportunity to come back here for career, so I'm back here in Michigan, so that's where I am now, and we have 2 boys, one 6, Christopher, and 3-year-old Calvin. Thank you.
And at this point, do you have any involvement in the schools or community?
Most of my involvement is purely as from a parent's perspective, joining the events, participating with the parent-teacher events, and but I'm sitting here looking for an opportunity to participate more. So, yeah, thank you.
Hi, Gary. Thanks for coming. My question is, as a board member, how will you support teachers and students to promote learning and success?
Yeah, I think from my personal experience, education has been quite has opened up a lot of pathways for me. And the teaching profession is really, in terms of the public sector, it's, teachers do it out of a passion, not out pure, out of for the paycheck, So from my perspective, I think, the teachers, as a board member, we should just give them more confidence to try, do their best to sometimes they might have some different alternative methods of trying to engage the children a bit more, try out different methods of reaching them, and a part of the board, I think we should just give them our support, because the advent of the internet has brought us together, but it also has made things come to the surface a lot easier. It's made people react quickly to things that that they may not fully understand the context of. So in terms of sometimes the teachers want to try some new things, but then suddenly maybe the parents, from my perspective as a parent, this is a new method of teaching. Is that we should give them more support so that the teachers can apply themselves more. Yeah, that's thank you.
Thank you for being here. The resignation, appointment, and run as an incumbent Congo line has a long history in our district. There's historical data to support that being able to run as an incumbent candidate increases a candidate's chance of winning. One suggestion to limit the number of resignations has been to reduce trustee terms from 6 years to 4 years. Other benefits could be that we could attract more qualified candidates and have more trustees elected without having to be appointed first. What are your thoughts on how we can reduce the number of resignations and appointments?
That's a very big question. I think if you look at in terms of what in terms of the political land, I really don't want to go into politics, but if you look at for example the House and the Senate, once you do get elected, the voting tendency is just to continue with the incumbent candidate. Reducing the terms of the period could or might not change. I honestly, I've no idea whether that will change. But when I made the application, I identified that stability in the board is something that's very important for the community. Because I think like as a parent or as a teacher, we want to see that the board is having a long-term vision of what the community and the district wants to do. And if you keep changing board members, then obviously that interrupts and gets into the flow of long-term planning. To be honest, I don't know how to answer your question because it's not. Yeah. Yep, thank you.
Gary, thank you for being here. My question has to do with an equity statement that our district has adopted and our board has adopted that states a commitment to providing an equitable education that prepares all students for an interdependent, evolving world through a unified culture of belonging for all, while recognizing that systemic inequities exist, which create educational equity gaps among various identity groups, specifically those who have been marginalized. How do your personal values compare or contrast with this statement, and where it might differ, how will you reconcile your personal values with this statement in order to serve all children?
Oh, that's a really long question. I'm sorry. I think my upbringing, my childhood has been fairly, to say fairly, it's been quite diverse. In Southeast Asia and Singapore, and then in America. I've been lucky to see how different societies, how different philosophies, how different countries try to adopt their own philosophies on how to, run a country. I think that's molded me to the idea that there is no one fixed solution to tackle the issue of education. Some people are visual learners, some people are not. Or some people like a slower pace, some people like a quicker pace. If we look at the university entrance numbers in the United States, since about 2010 to about now, the overall trend is that it's increasing from about 30% to about 36-ish%. So it looks like, long term in a 10-year span, that's increasing. But if you look at the data from 2015 to now, it's been a decreasing trend. So there's a like to get back to your question, there is a percentage of the population in America who think that higher education and university is not the way they want to go. If that's that's a cultural reason or maybe it's a financial reason, it's always like a family and a personal decision. But I think as a school board, we should, for those who do want to go into university, we should support them and help them with their applications. For those that choose not to go into university, then there are some things like lifelong skills that we should help them with. I spoke with Carol just now before here. I personally feel like we should be teaching things like, the basic stuff like how to plan a budget, how the taxation system in the U.S. works. Because personally, when I got my first paycheck, I was pretty confused by all this. You have the standard deduction and all these kind of things. I'm pretty sure a lot of the kids who come out of the public school system have no clue how this works, right? So it doesn't matter if you're going to university or not. I think there's the attitude of lifelong learning should apply regardless of what background you have, what culture you have, and I think that would these kind of aspects would really help everybody. Yeah. Thank you.
Welcome. It's nice to have you here today. Will you please describe a situation where you voiced a dissenting opinion to support what was principled, even though it was unpopular? What was the outcome, and how will you bring that kind of energy to our board?
sorry, a dissenting opinion
Dissenting opinion.
for
to s-
something that was unpopular?
To support something that you believed was right, that you believed it was according to your principle, even though it was unpopular.
Yeah, I think my background as coming through as in the engineering field is it's always been based on the scientific hypothesis. You start with the hypothesis, you do the testing, then you get the results, and that you see if that confirms with your initial hypothesis or not, right? There are cases where, in theory, you go to a situation, you think, okay, this is what it should happen, and you advocate for this kind of position, but in the end, it doesn't come out to be that way. There was one time in my professional career where I felt that the team or the company should join a consortium, a scientific consortium. And there was a little bit of pushback on like whether that brought value to the company or not. And so to try and convince the stakeholders, I had meetings with the director, the manager, and just going through and saying, from my point of view, what's the justification of why we should join this consortium or not? And then, ultimately the decision is not in my hands, but I do my best to try and, based on my own preferences and my own opinions, and try and push for what I think is the right thing to do.
Hi, Gary. Thanks for coming
Hi.
out. So kind of piggybacking on that premise, when we model grace and a growth mindset, we give our kids the same. And with this consideration, the work that this board does is not always black and white. There's a lot of gray area in school governance. Share about a time when you had to consider an issue and, after more understanding, found you changed your opinion or position. Explain how you came to the decision you ultimately made.
I think this is I can think of an example that's quite a personal one, where, so my wife and I had one kid, and for me personally, I thought that was going to be it. I just wanted one kid, so that both of us could have the love and the attention just for him. And I was quite adamant about that kind of position for quite a bit, until she convinced me that having two kids is when they grow up together, they can have a buddy, a forever friend, because it's bonded by blood, right? So so that helped me to convince me that, and in the end, as it always is, the wife is always correct. It turns out that her opinion was actually right, because when I see the two boys fighting over like
Yeah.
a pillow or something, it's
Yeah.
like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah, well, not only that, but when they get older, then they can talk about both of you together.
Yeah. Thanks. Thank you.
Well, again, thank you for being here. And at this point, I'd just like you to take a moment and tell us why you think you would be the right person, right addition for this board.
I think from my perspective of growing up, I can bring a worldly perspective. I don't want to sound arrogant or anything, but based on my experiences growing up, I think having a different perspective on things is always good. It adds a different way to think about things. Like when you forge a piece of armor, you don't always just hit it from only one side, right? You flip it over a bit, you change directions, and you mold things from different directions, right? So, and then academically, I've been a lifelong learner. Going through my bachelor's degree, my PhD, I know how hard it is to go through the higher education process. I think I can bring that kind of passion and the kind of the engineering mindset into educating the kids. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say about that. Yeah, thank you.
All right, well, thank you so much for being with us.